Hello and welcome. This is a first edition, Weir of Hermiston, printed in 1896 by Robert Louis Stevenson. You may know that Robert Louis Stevenson wrote, amongst other things, Kidnapped Treasure Island and Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. To me, this is phenomenal, gifted to me by a very good friend, and I can physically touch these pages, smell them if I want, read them obviously, that are steeped in the past. This is not long after the time of Jack the Ripper. It's very much in the time of Sherlock Holmes, albeit a fictional character, but Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, another writer and physician, as well, of course, he was not fictional. So this, to me, puts me very much in touch with the past. That tantalizing, almost ability to travel back. I can look at the marks on this with age. People have written some bits and pieces at the beginning, and I think it's absolutely marvelous. I, by the way, am someone who, when I have a physical book, will tend to make notes, take notes, scribble in it. Not this one, not this one. I keep it safe, but it's also important to just be with the book, I think. And why am I talking about that? Well, it is back to a subject that I've touched upon before in different ways, and this is about learning. It's about getting away from the digital wherever possible. And there's a lot of work being done in this area, but it would seem that Generation Z or Gen Z are they're the first generation who are not as smart as their parents overall on average. Why is that? Well, several reasons. One of the reasons appears to be connected, and I think there's very strong correlation. Doesn't mean causation, but I suspect it is, at least in part, a cause with the introduction of social media, phones, being online, and the push for digital learning. The digital learning, I don't know about you, but when I look at something on a screen, when I read it, when I'm doing something online, it is nothing like the same experience as physically having the book. And typing online, taking notes online is nothing like the same experience as writing. There's all sorts of studies and I suppose opinions about why that might be better. My opinion is, yes, I've read those studies, they are compelling, but it's also essentially an experience of mine. I find it to allow me to understand, to retain a lot better. And why then talk about this? Again, my focus and worry at the moment is that push to digitize everything more and more and more. Let's look at this AI video of a monkey on top of the Empire State Building and so on. And they're very slick, but it attracts people like moths to being stuck to these machines. And I think that we have to buck that trend. I think that we have to continue to ensure that where possible, we meet in person. We physically visit places, again, where possible. Talking online, video calls, yeah, I use that. That's great. It's not that it's wrong, but we have to also ensure that that's not where possible, again, our whole lives, our whole interaction. Let me read you a little snippet from someone I've talked about already. This is a bit from a book, The Digital Delusion by Dr. Jared Cooper Horvath. And he's talking here. Let me just read the snippet and I'll explain what he's talking about. Within the brain, these rule sets must be loaded into a small area called the lateral prefrontal cortex, the command center for goal-directed behavior. Whichever rule set the lateral prefrontal cortex holds determines what your attention blocks out and what it lets through. Now, what he's getting at there is that if you're learning online, if you're attempting to study or even pay attention, then that filtering rule set has got to change depending on what you're doing. Like here, I I know that to read this, I've got to open this page, I've got to go down that line, I've got to turn a page, I've got to get decent light and so on. And I'll tend to be focused on that. But if you're online, if you're on a screen, as very much the case with children, but you know, a lot of us, almost all of us these days, it is so easy for that attention to shift. And when it shifts to a different domain on the same screen online, that lateral rule set, lateral prefrontal cortex rule set has got to change. And again, I've written about this myself in the past. The whole idea of multitasking, because that is what it becomes, isn't that at all. Actually, I call it multiplexing. It's much more like switching between tasks. It's much more like a machine, a computer would do, and it is costly and it is not accurate and it uses a lot of energy. So when you put kids and adults in front of these screens, what are they doing? They're jumping about. The energy used and expended by changing rule sets, and also because of that energy drain. And remember, the command center, the frontal cortex is energy intensive and gets tired very quickly. When we do that, we lose accuracy, and often we can lose interest. Back to the learning experience itself. This can be for adults, but of course primarily I'm thinking at the moment about children. And when children learn in person, something different happens because there is this connection. Or not, as it may be with a bad teacher. With a good teacher, there's often a connection. Again, from the same book. We're talking here about therapy initially, but if you bear with me, I'm sure you'll get the point right away. Because the operative word in therapeutic relationship isn't therapeutic, it's relationship. Decades of research consistently show that the quality of the patient-therapist relationship is the single strongest predictor of success. Some estimates even suggest that up to 80% of therapeutic outcomes depend on a strong, empathetic bond. Did you notice that at school? I certainly did. A subject that I really enjoyed, I really liked the teacher. There were some exceptions to that, maybe more than one teacher per subject, but there's something about that relationship. In person, a teacher who can notice when we're tired, notice when we're not getting things, help us, encourage us. We want to do well to please them very often. That therapeutic relationship not only exists in education and teaching, but I would suggest also in coaching. I would suggest also in leadership. It's the same thing. You can have some kind of relationship with the machine, with an algorithm for sure, but that's very much anthropomorphizing something which is cold and calculating. And there are some people, I know one or two myself, who just love their AI assistants and think, yeah, no, they understand me and it's all good. But they are soulless and they are designed in certain ways to do certain things. And also, more and more and more, we are being encouraged, notice it, to use AI again and again and again. And it does have its uses, but we have to step back. We have to understand that that is a trap in many ways. It can be useful, but it is also seductive, and there's money behind it. Follow the money. People will make a lot of money out of AI, particularly if we get addicted to it. But again, really important to add in the caveat, it's not all bad, but we have to practice caution. We have to be circumspect. Let me read you this. This part from the same book is about location. And when I finish this, I'm going to bring it back to the book. Another reason the physical book is important. By contrast, students who rotate study locations, kitchen table, school bus, library, train their brains to receive knowledge anywhere. Their abilities become more portable. As my former student later reflected, I will study at my desk, but I take practice quizzes wherever I can. And I'm definitely seeing a difference on exams. And that's because the author had talked about someone who froze in the exam hall because they'd only learned what they were learning in one location, and the different location made it harder to retrieve the memory. And that, apart from being sound advice in terms of studying, also relates to the online world, because we tend to learn also by location. Think about it. What have humans evolved to do, to find a way in a landscape, to know where the food is, to know where they put it in that cave, to recognize the topography, to orientate themselves based on placement of things, and indeed people and signs, paintings, perhaps a sculpture that's been made, carved somewhere. The book, it is strongly suggested, gives us that. We can look at the library, we can look at the shelf, we can pick up the book. It's in 3D. It helps that innate understanding of where things are. It helps us remember. I know I can open it at that page. I can find that text. I know roughly where I am with this, and I know where it's placed in the environment. When we go online, this becomes nebulous because it's the one screen that can do many things. It is harder to get that more three-dimensional, topographical learning, memorizing, understanding ultimately of what we have in front of us, what we are learning and what we are remembering. And you may be then thinking, what about a Kindle? Well, some studies have shown that a Kindle is better than simply a screen that can have all sorts of different things on it, but it is not as good as a book. You may also be thinking, but hold on, what about the cost of printing all this stuff? Absolutely, but if you use a book, if you refer to it, if you read it, I forget the exact number, but let's say 10 times, then it becomes more environmentally friendly than going online. And I would also point to look at the huge cost of AI. Look at the energy costs of that and how water greedy those farms are as well. So I would say, all in all, that what this video is about, as I get to the end of it, is a need for all of us to waken up. And if you have kids or grandchildren or whatever it is, look at how much time they're spending online. Look at the need for them to get outdoors and consider how much they are actually learning and the benefits of physical books. Because when the internet goes down, well, all I need for this is the book itself, and if it's dark, a candle.